Moi everyone and welcome to Finish Your Plate. The macaroni casserole is an all-time favorite in Finland. Some people love it because it has those crunchy bits on top. Some people love it because of the cheese. Some people love it because you can have it with a ton of ketchup. And some people just like it because it's a very quick and easy way to make a weekday meal. I decided to make mine with just a little bit more vegetables, just to add a little bit more fiber in it. So join me and I'll show you how to make this Finnish all-time classic. So first let's boil the pasta. I'm using some kavatappi. You could use macaroni just as well. I kind of like kavatappi. And I'm using beef broth. The ratio is 1:2. 1 part pasta, 2 parts broth. So I'm just waiting for the broth to come to boil. While I'm waiting for my pasta, I'm going to take half an onion and then just dice it up. And now my broth is coming to a boil. And we're going to cook this, maybe just a little al dente, because this is still going to go in the oven. So there's a little bit of room there, wiggle room, so it doesn't need to be quite so soft when cooked. Now my onion is diced. I'm also going to add a little bit of carrot in there. Carrot is definitely an unorthodox ingredient in macaroni casserole, but macaroni casserole is very popular with children. Sometimes we have a little trouble getting children to eat their vegetables. This is one good way of adding some vegetables to your kids' diet without them noticing it too much. That's why I'm going to add some carrot in here. I'm going to shred it pretty nicely though. But even if you don't have children, picky children, or otherwise, the carrot is going to add a little bit of sweetness in the casserole, and it's going to add a little texture and of course a little bit of fiber and vegetable, which is always a good thing. Our pasta is almost done, so I'm just going to shred some cheese to put on top. You could use pretty much any type of cheese. The most common ones that Finns use is Swiss cheese or Gouda. I just have here some couple of random pieces of cheese that I happen to have in the fridge. You could use any type of nice melting cheese. Usually a good idea is to mix a couple types of cheeses. You could definitely use mozzarella here too. That's a great melting cheese. So as long as it melts, it's great to go in here. Actually, scratch that. I think some people even put Parmesan on it. Parmesan is not a melting cheese, but some people put that on top. And I have here a block of that, so I'm going to mix a little bit of that in there as well. The point is that don't specifically go out and buy cheese. Just use whatever you might have in your fridge. All the broth has now evaporated. I'm going to turn the heat off. And the pasta is cooked about al dente. I'm just going to add a little bit of butter just to prevent the pasta from clumping together. And now we'll cook our ground beef. We'll add a little neutral oil. We'll add a little bit of salt. And we'll start breaking up the beef into smaller pieces. And we'll cook this until the beef has browned a little bit, at which point we're going to add the onions and the carrots and our seasoning. You could of course use something else besides ground beef. Many Finns use a mixture of beef and pork, but you could use ground turkey ground chicken even, or any kind of meat substitute. Textured vegetable protein, soy, anything like that. Now I'll just add about a teaspoon of allspice, some paprika, and black pepper. Many people also like to make it spicy. They will add cayenne or any other type of spicy chili pepper in here, chili powder. You could use red pepper flakes. Now the ground beef is cooked through, but it's not quite there yet. It hasn't browned enough. So I'm gonna add my onions and a carrot. And I'm gonna keep cooking this until everything's nice and browned. Which could take a little while. So if it looks a little dry at this point, by all means add a little oil to it. It depends on what kind of meat you're using. Ground turkey, for example, would definitely be dry. My beef was a little bit on the leaner side, so that's why it is a little bit on the drier side, but I think I'm good right now. While my beef is finishing up, I'm just going to make the egg and milk mixture. If you want to keep it lactose free, instead of milk, you could use beef broth. So I'm going to use 7 deciliters of milk, and I'm going to crack in 3 eggs. And we're going to mix it up. And the beef is about done, so I'm going to turn the heat off. Now I'll mix the beef in together with the pasta. We'll mix this well, and then we're going to spoon it into our oven-proof bowl. So now we'll spoon this in. And we'll pour in our egg milk. And last, we're going to sprinkle on some cheese. This is now ready for the oven, 200 degrees Celsius, about 400 Fahrenheit. Give it about maybe an hour or so. If it starts to burn on the top, cover it with foil. So keep an eye on it. So the macaroni casserole is ready. I let it sit a little bit on the counter just to cool down, and it'll kind of reabsorb some of those liquids. Otherwise, it may be a little bit soupy on the bottom, which is definitely not something that you want. I also have my ketchup here, tons of ketchup to have with it. So let's dig into it and let's see what it looks like. So I'm just going to cut through the cheese layer here. And grab and serve myself a piece. And I'll serve mine with just a little bit of ketchup on top. And that's all it really needs. If you want to get fancy, you could serve this maybe with some Finnish rye bread, maybe crisp bread or something like that if you have it. But either way, it's great as it is. This recipe was great because it added some of those carrots. You can't really tell that they're in here. I like just the addition of the carrots in it. I think they bring a little bit of sweetness to the party too, which is great, which works pretty well. Of course, you could have used any other types of meat here too, not just beef, but whatever you do, don't skip on the ketchup. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on Finish Your Plate.